See how our lady Angrboða frowns, sister. Why could that be, I wonder?
Could it be, brother, because Loki Laufeyson will be king?
Or could it be because she was sent from the court to fetch the children of Rimnir, like a common thrall?
Perhaps it is because the Lady Skadi is already closest to becoming the first wife. Heiðr replies, a mischievous smile on her lips.
Ah, perhaps. Or perhaps I am to blame, sister. Surely my ghastly powers make the lady uncomfortable.
Hrossþjófr wiggles his fingers playfully, and a luminescent green glows from his fingertips. Well, that's certainly something to ask about later. You glance at the forest twins for guidance. The walk back to the throne room is proving hellishly awkward so far, and you're pretty sure the huge giantess leading the way would have already throttled the storm twins were they not some sort of special guests. Gjalep and Griep both look pretty uncomfortable too, though you think you see a look of surprise flicker in Griep's eyes when Hrossþjófr shows off his magic. She quickly looks away, tucking a wayward strand of hair behind her braid. Interesting. Heiðr grins at her brother. It may be that Lady Angrboða simply finds herself ill at ease in the presence of the stormer Jotnar. Honored speaker for the Valva, perhaps you should hold your tongue. The woman called Angrboða practically snarls. Hrossþjófr turns and winks over his shoulder, and you could swear you could see Griep's cheeks turn the faintest shade of lavender. So frost giants can blush after all. You think, weirdly smug about the observation. Maybe this is the kind of stuff that Loki was talking about you overhearing, all this weird tension between the tribes. If he likes the gossip that you bring in, will he reward you? Probably not. Well, maybe he'll be a little more pleasant, at least. You decide to pretend that you're a spy, working deep undercover. Maybe that will help you get through all of this ridiculous pet nonsense. It does seem that the giants are willing to say almost anything at all in front of you. Probably because they think you're too stupid and scared to do anything with what you overhear. The dull roar of the crowd in the throne room is audible even before you reach it, and some instinct is really, really urging you to just turn tail and run. You don't have the best sense of direction, but hey, maybe you could find your way back to Loki's room, except you'd probably get all of 2 steps before a giant snatched you up. You might kind of like your twin guards, but that doesn't change the fact that they're still essentially guards. Plus, Angrboða looks like she'd be pretty happy to snap you like a twig. A hand rests on your shoulder as you follow the storm twins and Angrboða into the massive hall, and you look up to find Gjalep smiling at you.
I have never seen a new king made in Anga, but I expect that this part will not take long. Once the announcement is made, there will be an uproar, and the royal family will likely want to retire from court for some peace.
This is the best news you've heard all day. Well, except for the not becoming a sacrifice thing, and the Loki is actually legit, so probably don't kill him for claiming the throne thing. Although the uproar part sounds a bit sketchy, today is just a roller coaster of emotions, you decide. It seems like things are probably going to stay that way for the foreseeable future. Loki honestly looks a little bit like a maniac when you risk a glance up towards his throne as you're making your way to your nest. There's a thin smile on his lips and a gleam in his eyes, and he looks massively entertained, despite the fact that the general vibe of the room suggests that there's been some fighting. Maybe that's why he looks so massively entertained.
Go to your place, little one,
Griep whispers, and you're more than a little concerned by how tense she seems. Still, it clearly isn't the time or the place to start an argument, and you tuck your head down and shuffle towards your little spot as quickly and inconspicuously as humanly possible, avoiding most of the crowd of giants like the plague. Unfortunately, as you reach your place, you notice that quite a few of the giants are actively staring at you now, and you wonder what exactly it was that the court had been discussing. And you can't help but wonder, too, if maybe the whole sacrifice the mortal topic was revisited in your absence. You dig your teeth into your lip, biting down so hard that it nearly bleeds. What will you do if they try to kill you? Would any of the twins help you run? Would Bylister? No, of course they wouldn't. They've got to be vulnerable to something. Would it be in one of those books in the archive, maybe? Something that will weaken them, or something. Yeah, maybe there is. In one of those books you can't read. Your inner voice chimes in. Heiðr's clear voice rings out, breaking your mind free from its panicked ramblings, and you curl your hands into fists, wishing you weren't quite so small, quite so soft, and quite so alone. The Valva speaks, and Loki Laufeyson will be king, she loudly declares, and you're a little surprised by the blunt simplicity of the announcement. There is absolute silence. You can hear your heart beating. Her brother stands beside her.
The Stormer Jotnar claim Loki Laufeyson as the rightful king of Jotunheim.
The giants in the crowd are all looking at each other, as if they're all expecting someone else to start screaming about how all of this is insane and they're not going to stand for it. But no one does. After an uncomfortable pause, a few whispers breaking through the throng, Queen Farbauti rests a hand on her son's shoulder, her face perfectly blank. You can barely make out just how tightly her fingers are digging into his skin, but Bylister doesn't flinch.
The Skogar Jotnar claim Loki Laufeyson as the rightful king of Jotunheim.
There's that uproar you've been warned about. Apparently, the court was not expecting the queen to throw her clan's weight behind Loki, and while there are, shockingly enough, quite a few giants that look more entertained than displeased, a lot of the Jotnar proper look pissed. Since they're some of the tallest and strongest looking, you find that concerning. Loki doesn't look surprised.
Tonight, we feast to welcome the honored Volva, and tomorrow...
Farbauti glances towards Loki for only a moment, expression indecipherable.
Tomorrow we crown Loki Laufeyson as king.
She then stands abruptly, Loki and Bylister joining her, and save for the old Valva and the Storm Twins, everyone else falls to their knees. It's honestly a pretty spectacular sight, and you feel a bit awestruck, easily imagining some grand orchestral number sweeping to life in the background. The moment doesn't last long, because as the royal family begins to make their way down the steps of the dais, you suddenly become terribly worried that you're about to be left behind, and being left behind in a room full of giants who are clearly very on edge is probably about the same thing as a death sentence. But when Loki reaches the foot of the dais, he pauses for a moment, almost as an afterthought, and turns to you, crooking his finger. Your cheeks heat. Is he trying to draw as much attention to you as possible? You thought you were supposed to be keeping a low profile. He's crazy, you remind yourself. Chaos personified. And so, even though you're shaking so hard that your teeth are chattering, and this time it's not from the cold, you push yourself to your feet and scramble after him. You're almost relieved when he seizes your arm and drags you alongside him from the hall full of giants. Servants and guards are waiting outside of the throne room to escort everyone to their respective chambers, and you suppose that security is a little more high alert at the moment, considering all of the important guests and the political upheaval. The hallway that you're led down is near the one that you've been staying, but you're pretty sure it's on a different level. Honestly, with all of the small staircases and unusually sloping floors, you're having a hard time telling how many levels this palace even has. When you finally come to a halt, it's in front of a pair of massive wooden doors, carved to rival those of the archives. The only difference, as far as you can tell, is that these appear to be inlaid with gold. Damn, that's pretty impressive. The doors swing open with a wave of Loki's hand, and the servants look slightly unsettled. Oh, that's right. It doesn't seem like regular magic is much of a thing here. You think to yourself. Regular magic. What kind of ridiculous world have you fallen into that you feel the need to distinguish between regular magic and other types of magic? The room Loki yanks you into is much larger than the one you'd spent the night in, and you're still trying to take it all in when he sends the servants away. The solid sound of the door swinging shut grabbing your attention.
Behold, Jotunheim's royal chambers,
He says, sweeping his arms out grandly. He sounds way too flippant for your liking, considering that there might very well be a riot brewing outside. Did you just kick the queen of the planet out of her bedroom? You ask in disbelief, because honestly, you wouldn't really be that surprised at this point.
No, don't be stupid. Farbauti has her own chambers, of course. What sort of king shares his private chambers with a woman?
It's kind of interesting that that's a thing on this planet too. It seems really medieval. But at the same time, you aren't terribly surprised, because you aren't sure if marital romance is even a concept here. It seems like the circumstances surrounding Loki's parents' relationship are pretty much universally reviled. So, where am I going to sleep then? You peer about as you take off your cloak, looking for a door to a servant's chamber or something else predictably archaic and ridiculous. There's a large stone fireplace in the middle of the outer wall, surrounded by a few large plush cushions, and there are more windows made of the bubbly-looking glass, stretching from the floor to the ceiling. A dark wooden desk sits to one side, and on the other there is a large polished table that almost looks like it's made of some sort of cream-colored marble. There's an open doorway not far beyond the desk, and you see that you're pretty sure there's another fur-covered bed behind it. Pretty sparse furnishings, all in all for a king. You turn back to Loki, who is giving you a strange look.
You will sleep in my bed, of course.
But you just said...
You are a pet, not a wife. There is a difference.
Okay, freak, whatever you say. Loki flings himself down on one of the cushions, groaning, and you assume he must have irritated one of his injuries.
You did well, girl. The children of Hrimnir seem rather taken with you.
It's almost insulting how comfortable he seems around you, like he's rubbing it in your face that you can't do anything to him. Is that a good thing?
It is an interesting thing. Had the Volva and her kind seemed more keen on the idea of sacrificing you, it would have been terribly bothersome.
You feel cold. So that wasn't just a really bad joke?
No.
Loki props himself on his elbows and waves you forward.
Come here.
You eye him suspiciously, but you edge closer anyway, knowing that it's probably for the best if you keep him in a good mood. Why?
Because I am your master, now your king, and I wish it.
He replies with a snide smile, and once you're only a few feet away, he lunges forward and captures your wrist, yanking you forward. Sputtering in outrage, you fall across his lap, and Loki artfully splays you over his body, your back pressed against his chest.
I cannot imagine what you hope to accomplish by wiggling about like this, but I would advise against it.
He sighs contently, his arms wrapped around your waist, pinning you to him. A fire springs to light in the hearth, and you give up and fall back against him. Asshole. He tosses your nice little furry hat aside and nuzzles your hair. You suddenly realize, both horrified and fascinated, that you've become some sort of a comfort object. Loki's cool hands slide under the slits of your tunic dress, somehow managing to work their way past your layers to find your skin. You stiffen, but he doesn't go any further than that. He just leaves them there on your belly.
You are terribly warm.
Are you using me as some kind of human blanket?
Yes, I suppose that I am. I may have a Jotun's form, but I was not raised here. I am not acclimatized, I suppose. Asgard, well, the Shining Realm Eternal is a very sunny, warm place. I almost find myself craving it.
His amused little huff ruffles your hair. He sounds wistful, and maybe a little confused, and you can't help but feel pity. He'd probably be angry if he knew. You try to relax against him. It's super weird, but this whole situation is weird. So you might as well enjoy the peacefulness while you can. When his hands stir, you flinch slightly, but you don't try to push him away. He's simply stroking your skin lightly, absent-mindedly, and it honestly feels nice. You realize that you're really, really tired, and he probably is too. You spent days half dead in a cave, and he had been in rough shape even before that. And this could have been nice. It's a little uncomfortable to consider, but if only Loki was some normal human man instead of a crazy, magical space prince, well, make that space king now, you could have enjoyed this kind of closeness. Or, at least maybe your enjoyment wouldn't have come along with such a terribly guilty conscience. You've only just begun to truly sink into Loki's strangely comforting embrace when someone bangs on the door, causing you to jump. Feeling embarrassed at being caught, you try to scramble away, but his large hands on your belly keep you soundly in place.
Don't. Stay. It's better this way.
You aren't really sure what he means by better, but you go slack as the door swings open. It's probably a bad idea to have any giants seeing you trying to wrestle away from their new king, especially when he just magnanimously declined killing you. It's Bylister. You should have guessed. He's watching you both with a mixture of horror and fascination, as if he's seeing something he knows he shouldn't find interesting, but he still does. Heat floods your cheeks. You guess this does probably look pretty suggestive and scandalous, particularly since you're a human. The door swings closed, but not before the guards outside manage to sneak a peek. Wonderful. If Jotunheim had gossip magazines, you're pretty sure you just made the front cover.
I've come to congratulate you, brother.
Bylister finally says, stepping closer. Beneath you, you think you feel Loki tense slightly, but he doesn't budge.
Do you intend to challenge my claim, Bylister?
I will do what honor demands.
Loki's laugh is harsh, and the fact that it's right in your ear causes you to cringe.
Don't try speaking in riddles with me, boy. We may be kin, but only I am the god of lies.
Very well. Let me speak frankly then with the god of lies.
He sits on one of the cushions, leaning his forearms on his knees.
I do not care what happens to the throne, brother mine. I do not covet it as you do.
However,
my elder brother Helblindi does.
Loki's fingertips dig into the soft skin of your stomach ever so slightly. It's the only reaction he shows.
So then, what am I to expect, Bylister? You and your brother will attempt to overthrow your rightful king.
The younger giant steeples his fingers, and you marvel at just how casual they're being about what essentially amounts to treasons and assassinations. Creepy-ass Laufeyssons.
Mother has pledged you the fealty of our clan, and I will abide by this. But who can know what Helblindi will do? He has always been quite ruthless. Father favored him for it.
He stands, rolling to his feet with a grace that you'd never expect from someone so tall.
If Helblindi challenges you, Loki Laufeysson, then I will stand with my brother. My true brother.
How touching.
It is not a matter of sentiment. As I said, I will do as honor demands.
Let us hope, then, that our brother Helblindi can be made to see reason, lest blood be shed unnecessarily.
Loki's voice is cold and sharp, and you try to pretend that you're invisible. The young giant's gaze falls to rest on you for a moment or two then, and you try to resist the urge to burrow back against Loki.
Yes, let us hope,
he says, and that seems to be the end of it. Hesitating, Bylister turns back to the door, his expression a blank mask.
Brother, the lesser sons of Laufey might consider your presence as an opportunity to advance themselves. You should be wary.
Loki appears taken aback, though he recovers quickly enough.
I'm grateful for the warning.
The younger giant simply looks at the two of you for a moment, gives a slight shrug, then leaves. Now what does that mean? Who are the lesser sons of Laufey?
Laufey had other children, with his other women. Helblindi and Bylister are the sons of Laufey's queen consort, so they are considered legitimate heirs to the throne, as I am. The rest are relatively far removed from the line of succession.
You stare at him over your shoulder, dumbfounded. You've been doing a lot of studying since we got here, huh?
Necessity is the greatest motivator.
So basically, you've got a bunch of half-siblings who probably think that murdering you is the best way to climb up the social ladder. Is that right?
To murder both of us. And that is correct.
Wonderful. Great. And why did he tell you that? Loki scoffs, pressing his nose into your hair once again.
Bylister might not covet the throne, but that does not mean he does not covet.
Your head is throbbing, and you squeeze your eyes closed and lean into the crook of his neck. Freaking space giants can't give a straight answer to anything. So, what does that mean? What does he want?
You? Is it not obvious? Rare things are meant to be envied, and you are Jotunheim's only mortal. If I am murdered by someone else, you will likely die alongside me.
What? You manage to whisper after a moment, completely horrified.
Calm yourself, girl. I am notoriously difficult to kill, if you recall.
Yeah, but I'm not.